That is right.
Okay, so we are live with our first interview from the One Race Solidarity Fest at Mid-City Beat, and I'm super happy and honored to have our guests today, Apryl and Rondel from Nomadic Wonder, on Instagram, right? On Instagram, and the Yarbros on YouTube. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. So just to let you guys know, I was contacted by these guys a couple months ago, and they live here in Merida, and they contacted me for an interview a couple of months ago, and so now I am contacting them to share in this day of solidarity with us. And so let me hand it over to you guys. Give us a little introduction about who you are, what you do.
Okay, so we are.
Would you like to video? Hi, I'm Rondel.
I'm Apryl.
And we are Nomadic Wonder.
That's our intro for all of our videos on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much, we are just a couple of travelers. We are married and we have been living abroad for almost 3 years now, and we are looking for that place to call home, the place that feels like we belong there, a place that we really enjoy and that encompasses all the things that
we're looking for.
Yeah,
so we spent about 6 months to a year in different locations around the world, and kind of just report back what we're seeing as we travel. And that's us in a nutshell.
Right. And so here, living in Merida, and you've been going through the COVID crisis, the pandemic,
mm-hmm.
here in Merida, and how has that been for you guys?
It's been interesting, and I say that because we've been watching it since the beginning, because we both teach English online to students in China, so we saw them get affected.
And a caveat: we started off teaching in Wuhan, where this disease, this virus originated. We started teaching in Wuhan. We still teach a lot of children there, so we saw it when it first came in like December when it showed its face.
Right.
And we watched that government get shut down. And
we've heard the stories from our students about it and what they were experiencing, not being able to leave the house. And then it was also during Chinese New Year, which is like the largest mass migration of people ever, because they're traveling everywhere. And so we were just thinking, wow, this was going to
hoping that it wouldn't come to us, and it spread.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
We feel blessed though, because to be in Merida when it happened, I this was a very safe. You feel safe here? I felt very safe here.
At the same time, we were also receiving emails from the United States. There's a program that the U.S. has set up for travelers or people living abroad. It's called the STEP program. And so we're receiving all these emails from them or from the U.S. Embassy in different countries we visited, like, come home now, take this emergency flight, take this expatriate.
And we have a lot of friends who are in different places around the world, and they really went through a lot of bias.
Yeah.
They went through a lot of things as this COVID-19 kind of took its foothold in Latin America and Southeast Asia.
And we ultimately decided that Merida was the safest place for us to be, so we stayed. We're still here, and we still stick to that decision to stay here because we do feel safer here. In regards to how things have been handled in America, I've had some family members that have contracted the virus, and thankfully, thank God, they are okay. They're okay now. That's good. But I believe that things were handled very well here.
Very well here. Really props to the government here. Seriously, hold on.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we kind of talked about the COVID and before, and as I just kind of said in my intro, and I think I was just telling you guys about this. So we're all kind of struggling with COVID, trying to make sure that we're staying safe, and economy is iffy, and we have all of these kind of collective anxieties and unknowns and fears. And then we see on national news, basically primetime TV, a black man murdered George Floyd in front of our eyes by police officers that are supposed to be protecting us. And so of course, that's one of the main reasons I have kind of come together with this fest today, and I want to start up a conversation. And I know you guys just published this week, and definitely I think I put it in the link here, but if not, I'll put it in the written part. You should definitely go check out their YouTube. They have a 15-minute video on a conversation on the Black Lives Matter movement and their experience. But I want you, tell us about your experience when that happened, and being far from that as well here.
Well, let's walk you through it. So for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we watched a police officer who was hired to protect and serve, casually with his hand in his pocket, put his knee on the back of a black man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in broad daylight, with onlookers watching, asking him to stop and relent, and he did not. Ruthlessly executed this man. This, unfortunately, is the norm for the black man and woman in America. And this is where the Black Lives Matter movement kind of grows from. We see these things happen over and over and over and over again throughout our lives, throughout the lives of my grandfather and everything else. And the time has come for it to stop. I'm so thankful for video, because inside of our communities, we've always had these conversations about different things that would happen to us at the hands of the police. We're taught as young men and young women what to do when we get pulled over, how to address police officers. We do not feel safe, and how to interact and have a safe interaction, the safest interaction that you can with a police officer.
Right.
That's ridiculous. So we're taught from childhood how to interact or deal with these people. And I shouldn't say these people, deal with the police officers. And I'm glad that we're having conversations now. But I believe it boils down to systemic racism. It's embedded, ingrained in all the systems, all throughout the judicial system, hiring systems, and all kinds of different industries in America and the Americas.
And the Black Lives Matter movement is they're all about dismantling that injustice in the places that they exist in our government. And so whatever that is, that's policy change, that's having our voices being heard, that's voting, going out and electing those officials who will support the rights of the people, will support or will not support actions that facilitate injustice or that just demean or belittle the lives of African Americans and other people of color. It's all about changing how things are, because as Black people, I feel like we have always been at a disadvantage.
It hurt me to my core. I can't articulate. I couldn't watch the video first. It hurt me to my core to watch that. I have 2 children in America, in the States, both in their young 20s, 2 male children. I have much family there. I was raised inside that system, and I know what I went through on a regular basis in my interactions with the police. By a large amount, they were mostly negative interactions. Okay, and you can't help but feel like he had his knee on the back of my neck, on the back of my child's neck, on the back of every other person that I know's neck. Because if given the chance to do it, it would happen. It would happen. I think the time is now to kind of to root this thing out. So we have the invention of video, so we can see that it's happening. Now what? The YouTube video that we did is just what I think is the beginning. The news cycle is going to come to an end. But what cannot come to an end is that feeling that you have inside. Once you see that video, you can't unsee it. This is real. This is now.
And we want to continue supporting those that are putting pressure on. We want to put pressure on those people as well, because like video has shown a lot of these injustices, but unfortunately in the past, the proof of the video was not enough.
It's not enough. So we have to hold the foot to the fire.
Different police officers, like even the acquittal of that happened in the Trayvon Martin case, which kind of sparked the Black Lives Matter movement. Like that was just, hearing no one's getting convicted of what happened to him.
I tell you what really, excuse my language, really pissed me off was the fact that this officer did this on pretty much primetime TV, and didn't catch a charge. He didn't catch a charge until there was a riot. You know, he did not catch a charge until the people said, no, something needs to happen. 4 days went by. 4 days.
Right.
That was the same with Ahmaud Arbery. Like that situation happened in February, and then at some point the video was released 2 months later. At the end of time where no one knew what happened, no one saw the video, the men involved in Ahmaud's murder were never arrested. Like they were never.
It was conspiracy. So what's important? What do we want to take away from this? We need to vote. The person that did not charge that police officer is a district attorney who was voted into office. Everyone needs to vote, and we need to know who we're voting for. We need to keep the same energy we have right now, which is beautiful, which is unity, which is really solid, which is strong, showing solidarity. We need to carry the same energy over to November. We need to do it in all of our local elections. Know the names that are on the ballot. I've fallen victim to this before, where I've gone to vote and I didn't recognize who the sheriff was, and I just kind of randomly voted for someone. It's like, oh, that mistake you cannot make anymore. We have to educate ourselves on who our officials are, what their records are, and what do you stand for? Do you stand behind the Black Lives Matter movement, and what does that mean?
Right.
Are you willing to have uncomfortable conversations with people who don't look like you? Are you willing to be open to receive what they have to say and give some feedback as to how you feel? Because how you feel is valid also. A reckoning has come. The time is now to have these conversations and just kind of open the floor. Yeah, that's what I think.
Absolutely. And I think that you have a really good point, because we've seen this happen. We've seen Black men and women just being murdered, and it has come up, and then there's a lot of activism, and then it kind of goes back down, and it just continues to come up, and it continues to come up, and we have to do something. Like, we have to keep the momentum continuous and keep it going. And I think that's part of the major challenge, especially, us as, I live outside of the United States. So my reality is very different. We have, as when you live outside, you're kind of removed from the crises in that country, and so, how do you think that we could make this more like it already is an international cause, because there's been protests all over the world, but how can we integrate it internationally too?
I'm so glad that you asked. That is, I thank you first for reaching out to us and having us on this platform. Using your platform to talk about the things that you stand for, to talk about Black Lives Matter, is powerful. This is a major kind of ordeal. It's a major movement. I stand in solidarity with my brothers in the UK, in France, through the Netherlands. I love to see that this is a worldwide movement, not for civil rights, for human rights, right? But the first thing you can do is use your platform. Right. You don't have to be an advocate and stand on the front lines with a sign saying that Black Lives Matter and silence is violence. But you can do it in your everyday life. You can post things on your Instagram, on your Facebook. You can have conversations with your friends.
Exactly. And those conversations have to happen not just in front of people who are experiencing injustice, but behind those closed doors, because closed doors, we're not there to speak up for ourselves. So they, as allies, choosing to be an ally is being able to point out what's happening and call people out.
Well, the important thing is systemic racism is allowed to exist because we give it a culture. We have to cut the culture off. That text you get that's derogatory, calling somebody a black bee or this or that. You got to hit that person back like, dude, this is not acceptable. No, we don't do this here. If we stomp out the culture and we don't allow this cancer to fester, I believe we can win. We can win. When people go to vote, they won't vote in officials who give a wink and a nod with their statements, kind of like the president having a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Juneteenth, which is kind of a wink and a nod, like, I don't really care about anything about Black lives. Black lives do not matter to me. We have to say as a culture, that is not acceptable. And that's how we change it.
Right. And another thing that I saw in your video that you did this week that I thought was good, and you mentioned a few of these things just now, but you're saying, that talking about the layers of being an ally, especially, me as a white woman who I haven't experienced this. And I mean, even as you're saying, you were grown up being taught how to deal with the police just in case. And I was never taught that. My parents didn't need to teach me that, you know? And so, I mean, just that sort of small privilege is really like, is really,
it's a big deal. Yeah.
It's a big deal. And so, you know, you did in your video, you said, okay, how can you be an ally, you know, not have feeling guilty, you know, it's more just about being proactive and being an ally. So can you tell us, you mentioned a few other reasons in the video. Can you kind of go over those too?
So first, white guilt is corrosive. Guilt is corrosive. You know what I'm saying? Positivity and love is lasting, and it builds. So what I see with this movement, just want to say before we jump in there, what I want to say is with this movement, I see that camaraderie, I see that solidarity, and I see the love, and that's what we can build on. So.
Mm-hmm. And along with that, there may be some areas in your life that you need to diversify. Like, what does your friend circle look like? Who are the people that you're surrounded with? And an awesome thing about travel and America is that you are surrounded by many different cultures. Like traveling, we get to meet and talk and interact with so many different people that have cultures different from our own.
You have to make a choice to stay isolated with just people who look like you. It's a choice.
Right, exactly. So diversify your circle. That's not like, oh, forget my other friends. It's not about that at all. It's just, are you open? Are you open to other people's experiences? Are you open to learning about other people's cultures? So diversifying your circle, diversifying the materials that you read. You know, where the authors that are your favorite, you know, what are their backgrounds? What are their experiences? Are they only the ones that you relate to? You know,
diversify your YouTube videos you're watching. Like, do you know what redlining is? Does anyone, do you know what redlining is? Do you know about the disparity in the prison system? Do you know about the economic disparities that exist in America and why they're there? I think it's time to start asking these questions and start to dig in to find out, like, why does this exist? And you will come to the conclusion that there's a lot of racism there, period.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially since we are continuing to be in isolation, getting literature, what you're reading, getting these different perspectives, little by little starts to open people's mind, especially those who don't travel much and that are just kind of in their own circles.
And empower power. Like, if you have a way that you can contribute to different groups or organizations, you don't have to publish on your Facebook. You don't have to publish on your Instagram. You don't have to have a conversation. There are a multitude of ways to support the movement being Black Lives Matter. Find a local Black business that you can support. Find a business you can support to. Find a charity that you want, a favorite charity that you want to give to. There are, what I think is a good charity, honestly, is legal aid. Too many times people go to jail and don't have any representative to represent them except for someone who's being paid by the state. And it's not working. It does not work.
Sure. That's actually a good point, because I had mentioned in my intro, I have a lot of links to charities here that are kind of helping the storm victims, but I don't have any direct links to good charities in the U.S. or organizations that are directly helping the Black Lives Matter. So maybe you guys can send me that, and I'll add it to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, all right, I guess we'll go ahead and finish up our conversation, but I really want to thank you for coming on and for having such great content here in Merida. If you guys don't already follow them, definitely check them out on their Nomadic Wonder and the Apryl. They have some fun videos, and like I said last time, hopefully once we're able to go out and about, we'll be able to see each other, listen to music at Salbai, or have a beer at Hennessy's or something. And so, all right. Well, thanks so much. And
the time is now, people. The time is now. We will see change.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Hasta luego. Oh, and one more thing, just for those of you who are watching, coming up at 12. I am interviewing the Secretary of Tourism, Michelle Friedman, who is also very, very active in organizing the World Peace Summit that was here. And so she's a human rights activist. So we're going to talk to her as well. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye.